Hello and welcome to another episode of Grateful by Lady Law, where I interview the people in my life that have made a huge impact on me, who've motivated me, and who've supported me along my journey. Today I have a very special guest, my mom, my cute little mom, Maggie Gruhlkey. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
And
Thanks
it was
for
about
having
an 800-mile journey, is that
Yes.
right? Yes. So why are you in town?
I'm in town for your niece, my granddaughter's confirmation.
Yes, okay.
It was last night.
Yeah, and you traveled from Adrian, Texas,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
By
Via Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, so you've had to fly here a couple
Yes.
days ago. So we're so happy to have you. I know that you don't come up that often because it is quite a journey. So
Yes.
it's great to have you.
It's great being here.
Yeah. So I wanted my listeners to kind of get to know you. I know that I spoke about you in my first podcast and kind of just what an inspiration you've been to me in my entire life. And you've supported me and you've been so patient with me because I am a middle child and I know that that says a lot. So I wanted people to know a little bit more about my mom. So I guess we'll start with the basics. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. So you went from Denver, Colorado, which is population
Well, it wasn't quite as big then as it is now, but
Right.
it was a big city.
millions of people,
Yes,
right?
right.
And you
700 and some in my senior class.
wow. I can't even imagine. And then you moved to Adrian, Texas
Yes,
for love,
yes.
Right.
That's where Daddy's from.
right?
Yeah,
And Adrian has a population of
125 people.
Right. So was that a culture shock?
Yes, because I think the block I lived on had more people.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So is there anything about your childhood that stands out or that you want to share about your parents or anything like that?
I had great parents, and I had a normal childhood, I guess. I mean, whatever normal is, it was a good childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then my grandparents, I call them
Yeah.
your parents, they, I know there's some immigration stories that are
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
My mom's mom came over from Holland when she was 20, and my grandpa came over from Czechoslovakia because the oldest son had to go fight there was some conflict over there,
Yeah.
and his parents didn't want him in it, so they sent him over here knowing that they would never see him again. Grandpa never talked about it, but they met in Denver, Colorado. It's a long story how they got to Denver, but they met in Denver, Colorado in class, learning the Constitution and things you had to do to become an American citizen back then.
Wow.
That's where they met.
That's awesome.
Grandpa was like at least 13 years older than Grandma.
And then on Grandpa's, your dad's side, they're German immigrants, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But he was born in Kansas, Grandpa, my dad's dad.
Yep.
And my grandma unfortunately passed away before I was even born, so I never met her.
Yeah. And then your mom and dad, where are they at now?
I moved to Texas.
Yeah.
My brother got a job in Texas.
Yeah.
Then my older sister decided she wanted to live in Texas, so my parents said, well, I guess we'll follow the kids, and now they live my mom lives in Texas. Dad has passed away.
Yeah. And Grandpa Peters, Al Peters,
Yes.
was such a character.
He was the greatest.
Yeah.
He was the best daddy anybody could have. He was non-judgmental. He was kind, and he loved to do things. Like we were always playing volleyball or had a baseball game going or horseshoes or tetherball, always something.
He was an amazing carpenter.
He was an amazing carpenter.
Yeah.
And the love of his life was his job was hauling hay from the Colorado mountains down for the people in town outside the city limits, horses and stuff.
He was such a hard worker.
He was a very hard worker.
And he had literally the best sense of humor.
Yes.
I think that's.
And he grew up dirt poor, and he never, that was just the way life was. He never complained or anything.
So he really was the patriarch of our family and just set the example
Right.
of how to be a good person.
And hard work pays off.
Hard work without handouts. And,
Right.
Yeah. And just kind and funny.
Yes, that's funny.
So many good memories of him. So you moved to Adrian with Dad, right? Dwayne.
Yes.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about what that was like coming from the big city to little Adrian, Texas.
It was kind of a shock because I know people talk everywhere, but in a small town, they know when you flush your toilet. I mean,
Right,
they know
yeah.
everything.
Yes.
And it was really hard for me to get used to everybody being in my business all the time. But, they had good intentions, so it was okay.
When you came to Adrian, did you have to get a job?
No, I didn't get it. Well, yeah, I did. Before I had kids, I worked at Stuckey's.
Yes. That's a
On
family
I-40,
legacy too,
yes.
right?
Yeah, we all did, didn't we?
Right. So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, Stuckey's is actually like it's a truck stop. Well, it's like a family truck stop,
Yeah, it's
or a family
a travel center.
travel center that was in a lot of the southern United States for
Yes.
quite some time. And
Had the best candy.
yes, they had great candy. They had, it would be like all these really gimmicky Indian artifacts, and like fake rattlesnakes.
Made in
and then-
Mexico and stuff.
Right. Yes. And then I worked there too as a cook. What did you do there?
I was a cook. I worked in the snack bar, which was like burgers and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was, Stuckey's was on Interstate 40, about 3 miles west of Adrian, right before you get to the New Mexico.
Right.
So there was a ton of traffic and foreigners there. I know you've told me stories about some of your experiences with,
The gypsies.
yeah, the gypsies.
Gypsies would come in droves all together, and they would be dressed like gypsies, like in the movies. I mean, they were just really gypsies, but they were really good con artists, and they would always try to shortchange us. So our boss said, take them one at a time, put your money on the register so they can't tell you they gave you something to get more change. And so we learned that. We learned that the hard way when we got shortchanged one day. So.
Yeah, it was always an
Crazy.
adventure. working
But
at Stuckey's.
a lot of times buses would stop, tour buses, and we'd cringe because they all wanted milkshakes, and we made them by hand back then with those machines. But for the most part, it was a really fun, and I had really fun with my coworkers.
I loved working at Stuckey's too, because you got to see, from being in that little town of 100 people, that was our experience to the rest of
Yes.
the world.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. But the one thing for me, even though I was a cook, and I did a great job with, it was always 2 eggs and toast for $1.99.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
I could not make gravy to save my life. And I remember my boss was always just, upset that I couldn't make gravy. So that was my memory of Stuckey's.
I don't think we had
When
gravy
yeah.
back when I was there.
They probably expanded the menu.
Yes.
So what are some of your memories of, being an Adrian, or, eventually you had kids, and kind of what happened then?
We had kids.
Yeah.
You have an older sister, and then you, and then a younger brother. We raised like chickens
Yep.
and hogs.
Yes.
Dad loved the hogs.
Yes.
And
We had bottle babies too.
we had bottle babies. Yeah.
That we would
And you-
eventually eat them.
Well, actually, we couldn't eat them, so we would sell them and just buy beef with the money.
Oh, I
'Cause-
thought we ate them. So this whole time I thought we were
No,
eating our
remember
pets.
Buffy,
Yes.
the cow that looked like a buffalo?
Yeah.
No, we couldn't eat Buffy, so
Okay.
Dad just sold it at market, and then we went to Eads and bought the
Oh,
meat.
okay. I didn't realize that. It's funny
We
the
only
things-
ate the chicken.
Yeah. Let's tell them that story, Mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was a science project
Yes.
that I think Holly's class
Yep.
raised an egg in an incubator, and it
Actually asked us for our eggs because they knew
Yes.
they'd be fertilized.
Yes.
So we took them up to the school in our science class, and our teacher, had this incubator, like you said.
Yeah.
And one of them finally hatched.
and we named him Peep Peep.
Cheep
You
Cheep.
named him
It
Cheep
was
Cheep.
Cheep Cheep.
Because that's what he said.
Yes.
It said.
And they actually let us keep that chicken in the classroom until it started crowing.
Yeah.
Nonstop. And then the
And
teacher
it turned
was-
out to be a rooster.
Yeah, the
So-
teacher was like, you got to take this chicken home.
And
So we take it home, and everything's fine. And he was like a pet. He would at least be somewhat nice, because the roosters are usually mean. And then one Sunday, should I tell the story?
You tell it.
Okay. So we used to go to church on Sundays, and sometimes you guys came and sometimes you didn't. So we got that particular Sunday, you dropped us off at church, and then we come back home and we eat chicken soup. And I remember thinking, this chicken tastes a little weird, but whatever. And so then after we're done eating, you're like, did you hear Cheep Cheep crow this morning? And we're like, no. And she's like, that's because you just ate him. And I was like, oh my gosh. Terrible. Although,
But he did get mean, and that's why
Yeah.
we had to get rid of him.
and he crowed nonstop.
And the eating thing was Dad's idea. We'll say
Blame it
that.
on Dad.
Well,
But I remember that wasn't the only time that we had a pet that had a demise that we,
yes, when you were in college, your dog Dolly. Well, Dad found Dolly
yeah.
and brought him home. Dolly was a Cocker Spaniel, and took a liking to you.
Yeah.
I mean,
She
Cocker
imprinted on
Spaniels pick one and they love it. And when you were off to college, she
And I had her for like 13 years. So
Yes.
from the time I was 5 until I was 18. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. But she had to be put down, so we did, but we didn't.
And I
tell
remember,
you.
yeah, you didn't tell me. So I come home from
Before,
college and
yeah.
I come home and I was there for like probably a whole 24 hours. And then you're like, don't you notice that something's missing? And I'm like, I don't know. I saw my brother, like, and she's like, your dog. And I was like, oh, where is she? And you're like, I had her put to sleep. And I was like,
I didn't want to traumatize you
Yeah.
before. I don't know. It's hard to be a parent to know what to
I know.
do.
And then the other animal story that I remember is Ricky. Remember Ricky?
Yes.
And Ricky was, we think, my brother and I's memory of him is that he was half German Shepherd and half wolf.
He was.
Okay, he
Yes.
was an amazing dog.
Yeah.
But he was an outside dog. He stayed in our front yard most
was
of the time.
huge.
Yeah, he was huge. And but he got bit on the face by a rattlesnake. And so this is after Cheep Cheep and maybe some other animal stories I'm forgetting. But I remember Adam coming up to me and saying, oh, so Ricky gets bit on the face by a rattlesnake, and we want you to take him to the vet, and you say no. What our memory was is you said, no, he's either going to live or die. So then Adam comes to me and says, do you think if we get bit by a rattlesnake, she'll take us to the hospital? And I said, no, I don't know. I said, she might say either you'll live or die, so don't get bit by a rattlesnake.
But we had called the vet, and he said, it's a big dog. It wasn't by any organs. He said, there's a good chance he'll live. He said, you don't know how many dogs out on the ranches get bit by rattlesnakes, and they never even report it. So
Right.
I don't know. So we didn't take him in, and he lived.
Right. And it's just funny because it just shows the memories of a child and their experiences. And I remember after that, my brother and I, Adam and I were always like, don't cross mom because I don't know what she'll do to you or your animals. And looking back, like I couldn't have had a nicer mom, but it just.
But that's just the farm life.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't take them all to
Yeah.
the vet. I think, and Rosie went when she got bit, but it was too late.
Yeah. All right. So I guess one other thing that I remember from our childhood and being in Adrian is one of your best friends.
Oh, Bob Brown, Ruth Brown, but she went by Bob.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Had nothing to do with her name, but yeah, she was like, 45 years older than I was?
Yeah.
But she just took me under her wing, and when I'd go to the store, I'd have like 2 shopping carts, one full of kids and one with groceries, and she always helped me with that, and entertained you guys.
Right.
Then we had to eat at Furs.
Yes, she loved furs. So
Yes.
for people that don't know what furs is, it was a buffet, right?
yes.
But it was like a cafeteria buffet. So
Right.
it wasn't like the buffets of like Golden Corral or anything
No, they
like
put
that.
the food on your plate back then.
Yeah.
You didn't help yourself, but it was,
And
she loved it.
Well, she loved the liver and onions. That was
Yes.
my memory as a
The
child.
liver and onions and the jalapeno cornbread.
Yes, yes.
Never changed her menu.
But she was such a sweet lady.
And do you remember when we used to almost every night in the summer, we'd go down and water the horses, her
Yeah.
horses, and then come back and sit on her porch and have a homemade cookie?
Yep.
Yeah.
She was such a special. I know she was very important to you.
Yes.
Because she was, that one dear friend in that.
And to be honest, when Dad and I first moved to Adrian, Dad had long hair. We were the first hippies that ever lived in Adrian,
Right.
kind of being judged, but she was so non-judgmental,
Yeah.
She just was so sweet. And then after the kids were grown, I would take her to town to get her groceries or to the doctor. Yeah.
She was very sweet.
She lived to be 100.
Yeah.
And I got to make her 100th birthday party. I got to be there. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember even being in college and going with you to visit her at the nursing home and stuff. Like she was
Yes.
she was family to us.
She
And
was. I loved her
yeah.
dearly.
And I think that, that's kind of what this podcast is about, is like the connections in our lives
Yes.
and the people that really have been there and supported us along the way. And, I know she's
Yeah.
one of those people.
She
too.
was
Yeah.
a major.
Yeah. Well, what was it like raising 3 kids in this small town?
Actually, I couldn't have raised 3 kids in a better place. I was very thankful that I didn't have to raise you in Denver.
Yeah.
Schools took you under their wing. Sunday school people took you under. People looked out for each other's kids in a small town.
And we were all 3 very different kids, right?
Very.
Yeah. In what
yes.
ways?
You and Holly were very studious. Did your homework. Got straight A's. Adam didn't even know you could open a book. Never brought anything home. Homework, But he did okay.
Yeah.
He could have done better, and he'll
Yeah.
admit it. But he did okay.
Yeah.
So
But he was busy doing other things.
yeah, but
you
he
know?
with his hands, he wanted to, he wanted to build stuff, and he didn't want to sit in class and learn stuff. He wanted to be doing something.
Right.
Like he would help Dad with, the farm stuff.
Right. So you talked a little bit about working at Stuckey's before you had
Mm-hmm.
the kids, and then I remember you were pretty much a full-time mom at home, which was just a full-time job, taking care of us, until I believe I was in junior high or early high school, and then you went back into the workforce.
Yes.
Right. Where was your first job?
The first work job back was the avocado place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guacamole.
13 miles away is a town called Vega, and they had a avocado. We made guacamole out of
Right.
4 different flavors, and we would peel the avocados. I mean, it was all made from scratch. The spice mix was already pre-made, but
Right.
I kind of liked that job.
I
It
bet.
was fun.
I liked when you'd bring it home, the
Yes,
guacamole.
yeah.
Right. And you eventually kind of went into management there. And
Yes.
then then you went to a different job. I don't remember why.
Well, yeah, that closed down.
Okay.
Because of the family. It was bought by a family, and there was a big family dispute. So that ended that.
But then you worked at a really cool place.
Then I worked at a really cool place with a lady and a friend of mine, hand-making rose candles, rose-shaped
What was it
candles.
called?
American Beauty rose candles.
Yeah.
And we
They were
sent them
beautiful.
to all kinds of boutiques all over the country. We sent them.
Yeah. And there was
Yeah.
all kinds of beautiful colors and fragrances,
Yes.
and yeah, it was so cool. And I remember you'd come home and you'd be happy.
Yes.
Because you were making something of beauty and you were with your friends.
Right.
Laughing with them. So
Right.
that was a good time.
That was a good job.
Yeah. And then after that, you became a government employee.
Oh, yes. I worked for the United States Postal Service.
Yes.
I was Postmaster Relief. So that means I got to work when she was off, and every Saturday, because she didn't have to work Saturdays. I enjoyed that, too.
I feel like you worked there a lot, though, because she was gone and working at other post offices.
Yes, she
right?
was, and then she had knee surgery, and I worked
Yeah.
so I did work a lot. And I had 5 different bosses. The last one, Susan, who is my friend now, was my last boss. I told her when she left, I was leaving, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was a good way to see and meet everybody in town and out on the ranches that you never saw. It was I liked it a lot.
And you also had a lot of, kind of like at Stuckey's, foot traffic from the interstate.
Yes, because we do not have mail delivery. We have to come to the post office to get our mail. The people out in the country had mail delivery, but the people in town had to come to the post office to get their mail. So.
And there were also like foreigners and stuff that would come.
Oh
in,
yes,
right?
the claim to fame in Adrian, Texas, is we're midpoint Route 66. We're halfway. Route 66 goes from Chicago to Santa Monica, and Adrian is right smack dab in the middle of that.
Right.
So,
Which is
and
cool.
So we have a restaurant
Yeah.
called Midpoint, and it brings in so many tourists, but most of them are European.
Yeah.
The Europeans are fascinated with Route 66.
Which is really cool because right in front of that cafe is a line on Route 66, and people can stand there and take pictures and
Yeah.
things like that. So
Right
you
in the
always see
middle of the
people-
road.
Yeah, right in the middle of the road. But it's neat.
It
you
is
know, and it
neat,
keeps
yeah.
us relevant and important, I think, in that little town.
But they would come in and buy, postage stamps, and
Yeah,
sometimes there was a language problem, but most of the time there wasn't. But
Yeah.
sometimes.
that's neat.
A guy from Italy came in and wanted one of each stamp I had.
That's awesome. Stamp collector.
Yeah.
All right, so you're married to Dwayne. How long have you guys been married?
It was 50 last September. 50
Congratulations.
years.
Yeah, I know. That's a long time.
Yeah.
be
I was
married.
a child bride.
Yeah. I love it. What is something that you'd want listeners to know about Dad?
That he is very, very tender-hearted, especially to animals
Yes.
and children.
So we used to
He
always...
doesn't put up with adults too well.
I know, right? So when we were kids, we would, I think every kid hears their parents arguing and thinks, oh my gosh, they might get a divorce. But we would always say, well, if Mom and Dad get a divorce, Mom will get the kids and Dad will get the cats.
That's right. And to this day, he feeds cats, barn cats.
Yeah, feral cats.
Feral cats
Many
that come
feral
from,
cats.
and they know, I think the word got around Adrian. Because when he goes out there and honks his horn, they come from all directions.
Right. And they'll come to him.
Twice a day he
Yeah.
feeds them.
Yep. And they come to him, but if anybody's with him, they won't. They
Right.
know it's almost like Mary Poppins. It reminds me of
Yes.
the pigeon lady, and all
Yes.
these cats come running for him. But it's just such a sweet thing. And he's like a big, burly guy,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't expect that he would be like, and it's not just the cats. Any animals.
not just the cats, and he likes to feed the birds in the winter too. And so I think word got around there too.
Which is a weird dynamic to have cats and birds. I mean, how
Yeah.
does that work out?
The birds sit at the bottom of the tree and just look up at them.
Yeah.
Because the bird feeders are up high, because we know what would happen if
Yeah,
they weren't.
exactly. And Dad used to work for the railroad, right?
Yes,
Burlington
he
Northern,
retired from Burlington Northern Santa Fe.
for years. Like that
Started with the Rock Island, it went defunct, and then he went to Burlington Northern, and then it merged with Santa Fe. So
yeah. And then he also was farming. during all
he
of
still
this.
farms.
Yeah.
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 His vacation time was spent plowing and planting.
Yeah. So
We didn't go on a lot of big vacations.
no, that's okay.
But yeah.
All right. Now, the other part that I wanted to make sure we talk about is the rest of the family. So you have grandkids, right?
Yes.
Yes.
6. 2 different generations, nearly almost
Yeah.
quite. Your older sister Holly, has 3. Haley being the oldest, who is a labor and delivery nurse, expecting her first baby. So I'm going to be
Yes.
a great grandmother. I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
And then Wesley, her middle son, is in the Navy. He's stationed in
Oahu. and-
Oahu,
Yeah.
Hawaii. And he's got a beautiful, sweet wife,
Yes.
Angela. And then the youngest, Carson, is at Texas Tech, getting his master's in communications.
Yeah. And those kids are wonderful. and
Amazingly
also
sweet.
So sweet. Yes.
They're
and
all so
smart.
sweet.
Yeah.
Your sister's sweet.
I know. Yes.
She's just real laid back and
And
sweet.
Holly's a nurse too.
She's a labor and delivery nurse. But they're so technical now. You have labor and delivery, and then you go to the other side where it's post that.
Yeah.
She just takes care of the mothers after they had the babies.
So I think Haley, her daughter, takes care of the babies when they're having the
Yes.
women when they're having the babies, and then Holly takes care of the babies after. So there's actually some moms that get to have both of them.
That's right.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
would
they
be
work
so
together
neat.
a lot, which
And,
is really cool.
Yeah, and I know that they both have told me that moms will say, that they're very similar in that they're
Yes.
just such sweet people.
Yes.
If I ever got pregnant, I'd go down to Texas to have my baby so
Yeah,
that they could take
no
care of
kidding.
me. Like they're just
'Cause there
such
was-
good people. Yeah, that's awesome. And then your second set of grandkids.
Your little brother's kids.
Lily?
Lily is 15.
Yeah.
15, and she does good, and
Yeah.
she's in show dance,
Show choir.
show choir,
And theater.
and theater.
Yes.
And she loves
Super
it.
busy. Oh my
Super
gosh.
busy, super busy. And then Hannah is in 8th grade,
Yeah.
and she does that too, though. She does show choir,
Yeah.
and they're good in it because they've sent me videos.
And those two, it just shows they're
There
both
is,
such
there is like you're and Holly.
Yeah.
You don't even look like sisters,
right. And
Your
then
personalities are
Lily's,
different.
Lily's a little hippie, and
Yeah.
then Hannah's very more dark,
Yes.
more edgy.
Yes,
but
and
they get along so
incredibly.
well.
Hannah's incredibly smart.
Yeah,
I don't know what she's talking about sometimes.
I know. And then
But
they
yeah.
just like our, Holly, Mandy, Adam. Then there's
Then
the
there's
little brother,
Easton.
poor
Yeah,
little
the
Easton.
little brother, but he's a sweet, sweet boy.
Yeah, 10 years old.
10.
He's
Yeah.
into basketball and baseball and gaming, lots of
Yeah.
gaming, right?
Yep, and Pokemon cards and Legos,
Yes. Yeah.
like most boys that age.
All such good kids. So you
And
lucked
good
out on the
kids.
grandkids.
Yes, I did.
I decided not to have any. I couldn't top those. All right. So one other big thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your current job that you've held. We don't even know how long you've been doing it. Probably at least a decade. You're mayor.
I'm mayor of
Adrian,
that big town of Adrian.
Texas.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me how that came to be.
In 2002, I got on the city council, and then and then as you go up and you get a mayor, you need a mayor pro tem to fill in if the mayor's not there. And I'd been there the longest, so I got mayor pro tem. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And then I was mayor pro tem for a long time, and then our mayor got.
He was my math teacher when
He
I
was
was
your
in high
math
school.
teacher,
Finest Brown.
yes.
Such a sweet man.
He had to go to a nursing home,
Yeah.
so I was still mayor pro tem, but I was acting mayor until he resigned, and then and I became mayor. And I've had 2 elections since. The first one I won. The second one, no one opposed me.
Nice. Now, a lot of people are probably like, it's a town of 125 people.
So what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, now here's the 2 problems we have: loose dogs and people that don't pay their water bills. Those are our 2 main issues.
Yeah.
As far as that, and then we have 2 employees. We have a secretary, paid employees. It's not a paying job, mayor. a secretary and then a utilities guy that keeps the water and everything going.
Yeah, and so for being a small town, and I was shocked how much work goes into keeping the water system. You know, and I think it's something that people take for granted so often. Just like so many things in life, until you really see what's behind the scenes and what's being put into it, you take it for granted. But once, you know, you've told me stories and I had no idea that there was so much, and that full-time employee is constantly busy.
Yes.
You know,
and over that cold weather that we had too, when it was down to like 10 below, he was over there all day Saturday and Sunday making sure the wells didn't freeze up and, you know, making sure they're insulated and the heaters were working. And he, you know, there is a lot to it.
And, you know, I think one thing that I know in your humility is that you minimize things a lot, because there is a lot more to being the mayor of a town of 125 people. I know you're often in meetings. You have to attend a lot of mayor meetings and things like that, and sometimes even over Zoom, but in person. Also a lot of grants. You've helped get grants for the city, right? What are some of those?
Well, this was already in but the fire department started it, but it has to go through the city. But we got grants for 2 new used fire trucks for the city, because that is very important for us to have a fire department.
Yeah,
we do have a fire
especially in the Texas
department.
Panhandle. I mean, I don't know if people, so many times there's fires in Texas Panhandle, and it's, you know, not a huge amount of people that are being harmed, so they don't even make the national news, but it'll be like tens of thousands of acres of destroyed.
and it kills the cattle. So we were short on beef for a while in the Texas Panhandle because, anyway, we got through it. Yeah. But we got a grant for that, and then we got a grant for gas-operated generators for the wells for when the power does go out, the water goes out, you know. So that'll keep the city in water. Yeah. And then we got a grant for new water lines. So because the infrastructure, in all cities, big and small, the infrastructures are really crumbling. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking is, like, you know, a lot of this stuff is older, so you have to try to maintain it to a certain point, but at some point things fail, and so you've got to replace it, and this city is not wealthy. So you
no, we're not.
So you've got to try to lean on grants and things like that. So one thing that I noticed last time I was in town that there used to only be one stop sign in town, and now there's more.
Onto the highway, onto the Route 66. But it was getting to be a problem at school, by the school. Yeah. Just 2 kids going to, it wasn't just kids either. Yeah. So, we did get stop signs put up, or yield signs. Yeah. We have a yield sign on our street now, too.
And it's funny what a big deal that is, you know, to like everybody in the town.
And people, it took a while because Dad came home and he goes, I just ran a stop sign, because they're not used to it, but they're getting used to it now, and they're and we speed limit signs, too. Yeah. So for the most part, they're getting used to it, and they're all, because I see they're stopping.
So kind of at least slow down.
At least they slow down.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the main thing by the school.
And
and our school is pre-K through seniors.
Yeah, in one building.
In one building.
Right.
But they're separate. They don't see each other, but
And that's how it was when I went there. The other thing that's changed since I've been back, or since I graduated from high school, is so there's a bunch of wind turbines all around, which is fine, you know. And it's actually been good because the companies will donate money to. Yeah,
they gave us money to completely add on our school and redo it.
Yeah. Yes. So last time I was there for our Gruhlkey family reunion, it was like it was the same building, but it was such a huge facelift and remodel. I was like, I was lost, you know, and usually you don't get lost in that little school.
And they even built us a regulation-sized gym.
Yeah, which is incredible, and wish I had that. But so I mean, that's something to be proud of too.
Yes, it is. We're very proud of it.
Yeah. I know that you oftentimes also, I got to make something legal about this. There's times that you've had legal battles as a mayor, is that right?
Yeah, the pavement, a pavement company stopped by and said that they were on their way back to Amarillo, and they had some pavement. Asphalt left over, and they just wanted to see if we'd want to buy it so they wouldn't have to haul it back. And so the secretary called all the council members to get approval, and me and everything, and we thought that would be a good idea there where the road's real bad. And that was about 2 in the afternoon, and by 5 they hadn't done anything yet. So the then maintenance man said, what's the deal? And they said, we're waiting for someone from Amarillo to come out, and blah, blah, blah. And finally about 6, everybody just went home. Well, when everybody went home and the streets were empty, they just put some sticky stuff on and some rocks, and then they left. Mm-hmm. By the next morning, when people drove on it, the rocks were already out in the bar ditches, you know, on the sides of the road. And so then he sent a bill, and I said, I'm not paying it.
How much was the bill for?
$9,000. Yeah. And so I said, well, I want to see the contract. So he sent me one, but it wasn't signed because I didn't sign anything. And I said, I'm not paying it. I said, we didn't get asphalt, and the rocks are already, we have pictures of them. They're on the side of the road. They didn't even stick. So,
Gosh.
So they said they were going to sue us, and I said, okay. And he just kept sending me really nasty, nasty emails and telling me I was the worst mayor ever. I'm going to get my city in a lawsuit. And I just said, well, I'm not paying it. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. And it went on and on until finally the DA of the county helps me. He can't be my legal counsel, but he can guide me.
Point you in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah. He said, just ask the council if they'll take $1,500 or something, you know. And the council said, no, we'll give them $500. But I mean, our rocks are, you know, rocks. And the guy wouldn't accept it. And he said, well, we'll just sue you. And I said, fine, I'll just get TML. TML is Texas Municipal League that fights cases like that for cities out of Austin. And I saved all those nasty emails, too, and I told him that. And I never heard from him again, ever.
It always amazes me the things people put in writing.
Yeah.
Wow, so you never heard from him after
Never heard from him again.
So when he found out you knew how you could help yourself.
Yes. He knew he didn't have a lawyer that could be, I mean, he knew he screwed us. I mean, you know. Yeah.
But he was going to push and try to take advantage of you guys. So good for you for standing up.
Yeah.
David and Goliath.
Yes.
That's awesome. So also as mayor, I know I oftentimes call you and you say, I only have 5 minutes. I'm about to go to a city council meeting. Yeah. I always time that wrong. So tell me about the city council meetings. How often do you guys meet, and how many people are on the council?
We meet on the second Thursday of every month, normally. Sometimes we have to move it because of basketball tournaments or something, but there's 5 members of the council. We have to have at least 3 there to vote, or we can't. If we don't have a quorum, we can't vote. And they can be anything from long things like the stop signs had to be voted on and all that. And but the last council meeting, there was one thing. Yeah. That was all. So, but we always have to vote to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, and we always have to vote on paying the bills, which you have to do, but you still have to vote on it. And next meeting, we'll have to vote to cancel the election because there isn't going to be one because nobody was opposed.
Okay. So that takes me to another thing that I know that you've done. So you were an election judge for how many years?
About 20.
20 years. So what does that entail? deep sigh.
It used to be fun.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, back when I first started doing it, we hand counted and tallied the ballots because we're in a small town.
Was this for any election that was being held?
Yes, all of them.
Yeah.
Presidential to local.
Yeah. Where was this? Where did you go?
The community center.
Okay.
When I started, it was at the old store.
Right.
And now it's at the community center. You have to go to class to learn all the state rules, which change all of the time. And because now you have to have a picture ID. Do you hear?
Yes.
Yes. So. You get a voter's registration card, and they were used to bringing that in. Yeah. This is sad because so the oldest, Grady, the oldest man that was still living in Adrian at the time, barely hobbled in with his voter's registration card, and I had to tell him he had to have a picture ID. So he had to go back home and get it. And I know these people. I know everybody that votes, but
I
had to do what I had to do.
And you were great for that job because you did follow the rules, you know, and that matters, you know, even though it's hard, you know. I also know when you were doing that, you were there for like 14 hours a day.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Voting's from 7 to 7.
Yeah.
But you have to go set up in the mornings, and then you have all the hard paperwork after when you're just out of.
Right.
You know, just tired.
So you didn't get paid as mayor, and you don't get paid for that, do
yes,
you?
You do.
Oh,
you get paid pretty good.
Oh, well, that's good.
I got paid $180 last time I did an election for that one day. But if you boil it down into how many hours you're there, it wasn't that good. But it was still better than nothing, you know. But
that's good.
You know, and then I have to take all the voted ballots and the important, because now it's all computerized, which I really appreciate because I don't want to. You can miss. You can.
Yeah, there is human error.
Yes.
Right?
So you have to take all the voted ballots and all the important, the poll book. It's called a poll book, but it's a computer where people sign in. That has to be downloaded to Austin right away, how many people voted and who voted and all that. And I have to take all that over to Vega at the end of the day, too. So I'm not home till about 9.
Yeah, which is late for you. And then
After being up there all day.
Right, yes. And then I know another thing that you used to do in the community is you are or were on the Chamber of Commerce.
I am on the Chamber of Commerce.
What is that?
That is hospitality things like, well, they do a lot of events like Easter egg hunts on the courthouse lawn, garage, the citywide, it's countywide, but it's over at Vega, garage sales. I can't think right now what else they do, but they do things, you know.
Right, and that's over in
they have a
Vega.
big thing at Christmas time. Christmas
How did you
on the
get on
square. The DA told me that I need to be over there because someone needs to represent Adrian.
Okay, and it's kind of a county thing, right?
It is. It's Oldham County.
And there's 3 towns in Oldham County,
Yeah.
Wildorado, Vega, and Adrian.
And Boys Ranch.
Oh, and Boys Ranch, okay. So you kind of they needed an advocate for Adrian to make sure we...
And I did, right off the bat, asked if they would pay for half of a mural on the side of a building that, had Adrian Matadors and all that.
And it's on there now, right? On the community center.
Right.
Yeah, so when you first
So
drive
when
into town on Route 66, you see it.
That's right.
Which is really cool. That's awesome. How long have you been doing that on the Chamber?
Probably 2 years.
And then there was something that you and Dad were involved in that had to do with the land thing.
Oh, well, he was on the Farm Service Agency meeting. Yeah, Dad did that for 3 years, and when he was done, he said, I took over, but I did it for my 3 years, but I don't know enough about, especially cotton and stuff we don't grow.
Yeah. But that was good. They needed somebody, and you stepped up for that. So you've been so active, which always, is just amazing to me that you went from this little town, or from this big town to this little town, and you've become so active and involved, in Adrian. So that's cool.
It is. Thank you.
All right, let me see how much more time. Yeah, we're probably going to have to wrap it up soon. One other point that I just wanted to make, because I talk about this in a lot of my podcasts, is how I couldn't have gotten through the last 2 years grieving Walt without you. You really are my best friend, and you have been forever, it seems like. I'll never forget little things like we'd go to vacation Bible school in the summers, and you would help out when I was little, and you would hang out with some of the other little kids, or help take care of them or whatever, and I'd be so jealous. I was always like, that's my mom, and I still, I'm just like, there was just that really strong bond between us, and I don't know that, there's very rare that there's been a day that we haven't spoken. One time I remember that we didn't speak for about 2 or 3 days was because of me. Do you remember this? So I had been dating, several different guys, not at the same time, but, just failed relationship after failed relationship. And then there was this one, and we broke up, and I called you, and I was so upset. And I'm like, what is wrong? All these guys. And you said, well, maybe it's you. And I felt more betrayed than I think I ever had in my entire life. And I was just like, what? And I didn't call you for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. I was just really upset by that.
And I was upset because I said it.
Oh, no, but I think I needed to hear it. Yeah. And that actually changed the trajectory of my life. Because what I realized, and I don't know if this is what you meant, is that I kept picking the same type of guy that was the wrong type of guy. And it was like, wait a minute, I have control of this. It's me that was the one that, and it really opened my eyes, and I needed to hear that. And that's when that's the true, I think, a great parent is, you've always been there to support me. You've always been there, for me, but you also have told me what I need to hear, even if it's not something I want to hear.
And the worst memory I have as a mother with you is you always wanted to help me. That's a good memory. That's a very good memory. But you were about 3 and I was making the bed. You said you don't remember this, thank God. Yeah. And you came in and you said, can I do it? And I said, yeah. And you did it. And as soon as you were done, I redid it because it was a crappy job. And your little face went. And it breaks my heart now just when I think, why did I have to redo it?
The good thing is I don't remember that at all.
That's good.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, though. It had to be perfect.
Right, exactly.
No wrinkles in the bed.
All right. Well, I think that we were short on time now.
Okay.
But I think we hit most of the parts that we wanted to, right? Okay.
I think so.
Well, thank you for coming. And
Well, thanks for
you are
asking
my
me.
world. I love you so much.
And I love you so much, too.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Grateful by Lady in Law. You can catch us anywhere you see your favorite podcast. We're on YouTube. There's Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And until next time, just look for the people in your life that you're grateful for and make sure you tell them. Thank you.
A Huda Media Production.